She wants to lose 15 pounds and she's sedentary. So she gets 1,500 calories and then you have yourself a little weekend or something happens. We have an office party. I'm not even talking about the holidays. We have a birthday thing that we have to go to. You had a shit day and you decided to stress eat your feelings. And so welcome back to Mastering Menopause. I am really excited to do this episode today. This idea has been brewing for a while now, and it's basically been the culmination of the past, I would say 18 months, maybe a little bit longer. Actually, no, it's more like 2 years of diving into aggressive dieting, why it is working so well for my clients, and why I have completely changed my philosophy and my mind on weight loss for women, especially in their 50s. So the official title of this podcast is going to be something like, why losing 1 pound a week is bullshit. And that so goes against everything that you hear about weight loss, especially for women in their 50s. We've just been told that you have to lose weight slowly, that if you lose weight quickly, that you're just going to gain it back. I had this opinion as well, and the model for losing 1 pound a week is you go into a deficit of 500 calories. And so we'll get into the math in a little bit, but I just wanted to show the premise of what that is and why that fails you. Why is that not going to get you the results that you want? Let's get into it. I for sure started out with just knowing that to lose 1 pound a week, you have to be in a deficit of 500 calories. That worked for a lot of my clients, but it didn't work for a lot of my clients as well. And so the number one reason why that doesn't work is just because it's so damn slow. It is so damn slow. You lose your motivation. If you have 5 pounds to lose, then sure, take 5 weeks and you're going to lose that weight. 5 pounds just isn't a lot. It's just by me taking more of a rapid fat loss approach where I can lose 5 pounds in 5 days, I'm like, what the hell have I been doing? What have I been torturing my clients with having them only lose a pound a week? And when I say only, yes, that is great results, especially for somebody that is stuck, hasn't been able to lose. And so I will use a slower approach, but I also want my clients to get wins right away as well. So I use a blended approach where we're going to use a rapid fat loss approach after a client is set up for that. And then we can go into a slower roll. But there is one thing that is glaringly obvious about why losing 1 pound a week would fail. And let's do the math, all right? So let's get a little bit technical here. Overall, the reason is because you just can't stay in that deficit for many of the reasons, right? It's not even a steep deficit. It's just that to lose a pound a week, you have to be in a deficit of 500 calories every single week. So let's say you have 15 pounds to lose. That means it is going to take 15 weeks for you to be in a deficit of 500 calories every single day. Let me see. How many days is that? Let's go to the calculator. Let's see. 15 times 7 is 105. For 105 days straight, you need to be in a 500 calorie deficit. And I will say that is not hard to do, but it's not realistic. It is not realistic at all. And so it is so easy to get yourself out of that deficit. Like you go to a restaurant. And guys, restaurant meals are going to kill your progress. I guarantee you, because you're not going to be able to say how many calories are actually in this meal. We wildly underestimate how many calories are in restaurant food. I don't think you guys realize how much fat that they put into these meals to make those taste delicious. My husband's a chef. I used to see him cook and I'm like, oh my God. And I couldn't even eat the food that he was making. I'm like, no, I will have that without the sauce. But So I'm not saying that you can't go out to eat and still hit results. We just have to consider that when you go out to eat, then you're not going to you can't solve for the amount of calories that you're eating. All right. So here you are, you want to lose 15 pounds. So you have to be in a deficit of, let's just say you are 5'6", and we've calculated your maintenance calories to be around 2,000 calories. We'll say this woman is 175 pounds. She wants to be 160 pounds. So she wants to lose 15 pounds and she's sedentary. So she gets 2,000 calories. So here we go, 1,500 calories, and now you have 15 weeks to do that. But here we have an office party. I'm not even talking about the holidays, right? We have an office party. We have a birthday thing that we have to go to. You had a shit day, and you decided to stress eat your feelings. And so now you're coming out of that deficit, and that's pretty common. That's real life, right? That is real life. And so I think when we undertake, because we're December 21st, right? And I know you guys aren't thinking about weight loss right now. We got a lot of stuff going on, right? But in January, you're probably going to be thinking about it, right? Low key, it is in the back of your mind. What am I going to do about this problem that I have right now? How am I going to take off these 15 pounds or the 20 pounds or even 5 pounds, or maybe it's 50 pounds. And so when you look at a typical weight loss model, that is going to be lose 1 pound a week. And for that very reason, the fact that we can't stay in that deficit accurately for that long, that is why that fails. And so let's just say, so that would be, you would be in a deficit of 3,500 calories per week. There's 3,500 calories in 1 pound. And so first week, cool. Things are going great. This is easy. I can definitely do this 1,500 calories. And then you have yourself a little weekend or something happens and you go over your calories by 500 calories on Friday, 500 calories on Saturday, and 250 calories on Sunday. So now that's 1,250 calories. That means we're not losing a pound this week. We're going to lose about maybe a little bit more than a half a pound. And then because you had those extra calories, right, now we're up 2 pounds on the scale. And so you're like, what the hell? And so now we're just slowing down progress. Now that 1 pound that you're going to lose a week, when we keep repeating this cycle, means that you're going to be losing maybe a half a pound per week. And so now that just becomes frustrating. And so that is the typical model. And I think that's what's failing women who want to get dialed in, right, with their nutrition, but then they just can't stick to these calories. I have definitely found that a rapid fat loss approach works so much better for clients because, one, of compliance, and then two, because of lifestyle. And so with a rapid fat loss approach that I have been doing, I'm jumping in on January 5th with all my clients. Not every single client is doing it, but most of them are doing the 2-week rapid fat loss. And they're going to lose anywhere from 5 to 9 pounds taking this approach. And so they're super motivated, right? They're like, hell yeah. They know the calories that they're going to be having. Some of them are triple digits. A lot of them are in the low thousands, 1,100, 1,200. And so, yeah, it is. It's dialed in. And it is not extreme. I would not consider this extreme. It's aggressive, absolutely. But what we're doing is we're pulling out all the foods, the wheat thins and the chocolate and the popcorn, alcohol, for sure. Restaurant meals, salad, yes, but not having a typical restaurant meal. And so that's what makes this easy to stick to, right? You're still having the foods that you enjoy. And then when they see those results, it is so motivating. The first 3 days, I'm not going to lie, it is hard, right? You went from having how many calories to now where we're having this, where we are going to limit those things. I think 1,500 calories is just enough to hang yourself with because I think we generally can eat about 8 to maybe 1,000, 1,200 calories of fruit and vegetables and protein. If it was absolutely lean protein. But then there's other stuff. There's wheat thins, like I said, English muffins and peanut butter and stuff like that. You can have snacks, right? And they're like, that's what makes it sustainable because you can have the foods that you enjoy. You can still have the foods that you enjoy. It's just you can actually fit in a glass of wine in 1,500 calories. but not 2 glasses of wine. And so we hang ourselves with that kind of model where, I think we get a little bit too flexible with that. And so once we dial in what we're having, the way that my clients are so successful is because they pre-plan this. And so I just had a client, she did this 2-week protocol, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to Ireland right after Christmas. I want to do this for another week. Can we do this for another week? So she just ended today. I'm like, yeah, if you want to do it, then go for it. And she's honestly, this has just been so easy. I wish I had done this before. And I know her. She attended my very first spin class that I ever taught. So we're friends from the neighborhood where I was living at the time. And so I said, I don't think you were ready for it, like at the phases. And she just looked at me because we had a little check-in call, and she was like, you're probably right. And so now what switched for her? And she was just like, I'm just tired of feeling how I'm feeling. She was also really a little nervous about macros. She said, I don't know anything about macros. And I said, it's just not that complicated. It's just let MyFitnessPal do the work. And then of course, learn what is a protein source? What's a carb source? What is a fat source? Peanut butter isn't protein. I think once you start really looking, okay, got it. So she freaking nailed her macros, right? For somebody that didn't know macros, she was just like, I just sat down. Honestly, it was easy. She preloaded everything into MyFitnessPal, and then she just had a rotation of the foods. It was like chicken, beef, and turkey, and had that on the rotation. She just bought for the initial 2 weeks, and she just put the stuff in the freezer. I'm like, damn, girl, like next level. She just started with me in November. I did a deal. I will coach you for $1 from now until the beginning of the year, and then we'll start your 90-day program. So, because you have to be fed up first before you take this approach. This was the beginning of November. So I said, let's get through Thanksgiving, and then if anybody wants to, they can do a 2-week rapid fat loss, like right after Thanksgiving. And so she was one of those. She hopped on and she was like, yeah, let's do it. And she freaking nailed it. Like, she had everything planned out. She hit without fail. She had her protein goal was 140. And so I'm looking at her food logs, and it's 140, 141, 139, 140, 141. Nailed her fat goals, and then nailed her carb goals in like within 4 or 5. And so I don't expect that kind of precision, but that is the way that she lost, get this, she lost 11 pounds in 21 days, and she reduced her body fat by 4.6%. And she lost 20.5 inches. Significant changes in the belly measurements. That's where it comes from first. And she is feeling fantastic. These are GLP-1 results without taking a GLP-1. Now, didn't have to do an injection. She maintained her taste for food. You know what? I'm going to do a whole nother episode on GLP-1. So I'm not going to go down that road. That's a different subject. All right. So the reason why this is so effective is just because we're pulling out those, I wouldn't say they're, how do I say this? The unnecessary foods, I'm not saying not to have wheat thins and things like that, wine and alcohol, like I have those, but there's going to be a time and a place to have those things. And so when we do an approach like this, your calendar has to be cleared, right? There's not going to be any big events. We're not going on a ski trip or anything like that. We actually have to pull down cardio. So we cannot do cardio on top of a rapid fat loss approach. You're just going to blow yourself up. So the way that this approach works is we want to maintain muscle. We are strictly going after the fat on the body. So fat loss results. And so when you see the scale dropping like 2 pounds, I will say the first 2 days, that is definitely water weight, right? We know this, but this is also inflammation. And so you can see in her progress pictures, like I saw her on the call and I'm like, your face just looks so different. So she has definitely lost like a lot of inflammation that she had. And for her, she was just like, I'm just more mindful about what I'm eating. She had a couple of aha moments. One was like, after 3 days, I didn't have any cravings for sugar whatsoever. The first 3 days they're hard, right? There's a pretty big adaptation process. We're pulling out some of the things that we're used to having. And she was used to having a little sweet treat in the afternoon. And so she wasn't having that. And she was missing that and just had those sugar cravings. And then after 3 days, she's like, it was gone. She's like, that to me is mind blowing. She's like, I don't even want it. I'm not craving it whatsoever. And then she also had where she was going on, I think she was driving somewhere and she was like, oh, I need to grab a snack for the road. And then she was like, oh, but it didn't fit. She's like, oh, wait, no, there is no snack because I don't have it. I don't have that available. And then as she's thinking about it, she was like, wow. She's like, every time like I'd make this trip, like I always grab something for the road. And it's just like some of those things, the way that this works is it just really highlights your lifestyle and your habits. And so when we look at that statement that if you lose weight quickly, you're just going to gain it back, I've said that, and I do think that is true, but it is true if you lose it slowly as well. Okay? So just because you lost 1 pound a week doesn't mean that you're not going to gain it back if you don't change your habits. But I will also say that losing 1 pound a week, if you have, even if it's just 10 pounds to lose, that is just freaking not motivating. It is not motivating. It is slow. It is like watching paint dry when there's another alternative. Like, she's feeling so good. Right now, she's like moving into maintenance and she's got, I forget what her calories were, but it's over 2,000 calories that she has available to her. And then she's going to go to freaking Ireland and then she's going to come back and then we'll see where she's at. She's not going to gain the weight back. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to be tracking. She's actually bringing her scale to Ireland. I'm like, you don't have to. Like, and she's like, no, I want to. That's going to work for me. She's like, I know me. This is how I want to do it. So I'm like, okay. Now, I will say she's already identified some habits, and so that's definitely something that you have to do. But this losing 1 pound a week, it isn't motivating. It's very hard. You know what? It's not hard to stick to. I wouldn't say that. It's not hard to stick to. It's just that it's so easy to not be in that calorie deficit, okay? Because now, for all the reasons that I mentioned, social events and things like that. And so now, it's such a small margin that you have each day, it's really easy to get out of that. And so if you can carve time, like a period of time aside where you're just going to be like, hey, this is what we're doing, right? She told her husband, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then he just stopped asking her, like, what do you want for dinner? She's like, I got it, right? I already made my stuff. It's already done. So that's the conversation that we're having with the husbands is, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And then maybe if you could just not ask me if I want to go out for ice cream or something like that. Oh, that was funny. So she was thinking about ending and she's like going back and forth at the end of her 14 days. And she's like, you know what? I think I really want to go for 21 days, but I don't know. I'll have to see, because her husband was traveling, had gotten some bad news, and he got home and he's like having a glass of wine. He's like, you want to have a glass of wine? And she's you know what? Actually, I don't. She's like, I really don't. And I looked at her and I'm like, who are you? So she was like, exactly. She's like, that's what I said too. And that's what he said. Who are you? Who am I? This is changing an identity, right? This is huge. So she was like, you know what? No, I think I'm going to continue this. And she's like, I really didn't miss it at all. Now she's looking forward to having some wine and cocktails over Christmas. And when she goes to Ireland, it was just cool to see that, like that happen as well. Yeah. Why 1,500 calories is bullshit is just because it's not motivating. That's number one. That's it. It's just not motivating. And it's very easy to get out of that deficit. I did some math here, right? So here we are over Christmas and New Year's, right? I think it's pretty easy to say between the 24th and January 1st, which is 10 days, that you would be over your calories by about 3,000 calories. And that's pretty That's only 1,500 calories on each day on Christmas and New Year's. That's just in 2 days. That's easy to do, to be honest. Can you easily eat 1,500 calories with Christmas and with all the cookies and all the meats, the charcuterie board, having all that? Yeah. I went for my birthday, I had 1,200 calories just in alcohol alone. So you add all that to the mix, like that is not an unrealistic scenario. But the thing is, it's not just Christmas and New Year's. Now you have New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve would be the big one, but then there's always that New Year's buffet or brunch or whatever. And then we have Christmas Eve, and then we have Christmas Day, and then the way that it falls, like it's just a long, these are just long weekends. It's just forget about it. So I think that's pretty conservative to say that you're going to have 3,000 calories over. So the potential to gain weight over the holidays is very real when you're looking at it that way. So anyways, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I found that, and you know what? We see it everywhere. People want fast results. That's why GLP-1s have exploded, because people are like, I want to lose it. I want to get rid of this, and have found that dieting doesn't work. I'm using air quotes for people that aren't seeing me on YouTube. Dieting does work. A deficit does work, but you have to work the deficit. And so here, when we take a super targeted approach, you are working it and you are getting you're going to get the reward, right? Almost every single day. So when I see, and I'm going to do a post tomorrow on my clients' results, you can see like in her chart, like where it's a weight graph and it just shows drop and then boom, right here we just stayed here for 3 days and then drop, and then just stayed at 3 days. And then we got a little half pound, and which is wild, right? Because you wouldn't think that would happen with the amount of calories that she was eating, because let's see, I think she's in almost 1,000 calorie deficit, like just a little less per day. And that's why it's so successful. And you would think, hey, why don't I lose every single day? But the body does have to adapt. And so it's actually a good thing that it had slowed down. So now it just had to catch up, and it goes, okay, boom. And now we adapt. And so also she lost 11 pounds. So now her calorie needs are a little bit less than when she started. And she's fine with that, right? She'll take that trade-off. Yeah. So again, it's not that diets don't work or a deficit doesn't work. It's just like sometimes the approach that you take, same with taking an extreme approach, right? I would call this pretty much extreme. I would call this aggressive. How long can you do this for, right? Most of my clients, after the 2 weeks, they are done. Not everybody is like my client where they're like, you know what? I think I can extend it for another week. Now, I do have clients that have, you know what? This was easy. I can absolutely extend this for another week. But the expectation is that it's just going to be for 2 weeks. But for some of my clients that have more weight to lose, right, that have 15 pounds or more to lose, then we are having the conversation. Do you want to do this for 3 weeks? Do you have anything going on? Because you can do this for 3 weeks. If your head is in the right space and you're feeling good, right? Like this client was, she's like, I have plenty of energy. She's like, I didn't notice. After 3 days, like the body just shifts over. So what happens is you take this approach, right? You're riding high in carbs. We have to feed you up before you go into this. You have got to have a good amount of carbs coming into this, right? We've got to fill your glycogen stores because that's what's going to get depleted. And so now, day one, right? You're like riding high. You're still working off of the calories from yesterday, from last week. And so you have plenty of energy. Now it's just like your body's, oh, wait, where's the food? Are we not eating? And then Tuesday, right? So let's say Monday scenario. By Tuesday, it's, oh, okay, we're doing this. And then your body's starting, hey, could we get that food that you were giving us? And then by day 3, now it's like your body is adapting. Your body's tired. You have no energy. We see this happening. Day 3 is typically where it's not the best day, right? You didn't have a great workout. You just don't have any energy. You're like, you know what? Fuck this. Let's go to bed. Oh my gosh, this is the first time I said the F word? I think so. Look at me. So that's what the process is. And then your body adapts. So now, how does your body adapt to lower calories? How does your body adapt to having the low, like 1,000 calories or even triple digit calories? It adapts by slowing down, right? So that's why we see like the fatigue and then the loss of energy. But then it finds a new energy source because it's not getting it from the calories. And guess what that energy source is? That's right. It's the fat on your body. So it's okay, we're switching over. It's very much like a keto process, except this is not keto, but that is like the adaptation process. And then guess what? Now your body is finding that energy source, which is your own body fat, and it starts digging into that. And that's what we want. That's why this works. And so now we don't have that hunger anymore. When you go on low calories, you actually will have less hunger cues. And so those cravings go away. I think a lot of times cravings are just habits anyways, but there are true cravings where you would just like to have something, but also that where you're hungry too. So I always tell my clients, like, know what the difference is between like hunger cravings and like I need to eat. So there's definitely some strategies that I have taking my clients through. I'm not going to give you all my secrets, but of how they're going to be successful. But I will say for this client and for my clients that are the most successful with this, it is not uncommon to lose 6.5, 8 pounds, 8.5. I would say typical weight loss is going to be like between 5 and 6. But I also know I'm going to see huge drops from this one coming up just because everybody's coming in bloated and inflamed and between all the stress and all the crap and all the alcohol. I'm right there with them. I am right there with them. And so they're going to see huge drops from this one. We're going to get a huge benefit. I call this a health phase, because we are taking out all the beige foods, right? We're taking out all the extras and we are focusing on veggies, on fruits, and on lean proteins. That's it, right? That is the premise. But they can still have the foods that they enjoy. So we're going to see some big drops, but I would say 5 to 6 pounds is the average. And then I will have some outliers where they're just losing a lot. So I think Jerry, she was down like 9 pounds on her first 14 days. And then she got like another 2. Yeah, she did. She crushed it. And then when she extended it, she just had a 3-day period where just nothing was happening. And then she got another 2-pound drop. So freaking proud of her. There is a protocol for this. And it really comes down to the mindset. And so we're definitely capitalizing on this January 5th start date. Go through the holidays, enjoy, and then your body just craves it, right? It's like, God, can we just clean it up? Can we just take a break? Can we just the stress of the holidays, and now that's over, is just get back to the regularly scheduled program. I love the holidays. It is a lot for sure. And so we're going to see some great results from that. So again, the whole premise of this podcast was my opinion on why losing a pound a week is just not the best approach that I would take for my clients. Now, what happens after? So what happens after when we do a aggressive approach? Then we do go into a moderate deficit. And guess what? Here's the kicker. Here is why using an aggressive approach works so well. Not only do we get insane results, but now what do you think happens when you start say you go from like where you're eating 1,000 calories to now 1,500 calories? Now it seems like that 1,500 calories is a lot because now you have 500 calories extra. And so now you're more satisfied with that 1,500 calorie deficit. And so for a lot of clients, we'll do either a refeed and then we might do it again, like a refeed being where we're going to have a weekend where we want to make sure that we bump up the carbs, and then we'll take an approach, like go a little bit slower, and then we can consider doing this approach again. Like, when is that? And that's going to depend on the client's schedule. Are they going to extend it for another week? We can do that. There's a lot of different scenarios. That's the art of the coaching, right? It depends on the individual. So I think this is episode 199. I think for episode 200, I will do that before the new year. And I want to talk about GLP-1s and why my approach, using an aggressive approach, is as good and better than using a GLP-1. All right. I will say there is one scenario where a GLP-1 is going to be, you know what? Not even then. So we'll get into it. That's going to be my next episode. So look for that. But guys, I hope that you have a freaking Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, enjoy the holidays. Be amazing. Have the best time. And thank you so much for listening. If you know somebody that would benefit from this episode, then please share it with them. I would love that. If you are like, hey, this was mind-blowing, I never thought about it this way, then put it up on your socials. Be like, hey, I listened to this podcast with Kathy and I wanted to share it with you. I would love that. So tag me. But Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.